guys, what's up? Lingling is back with another video. Yes, today we are going to talk about AMWF couples. Also, it stands for Asian male and white female couples. So I've tried this a few times before. Shocking! Maybe not. And I thought I would shed a little bit of light on this topic today. Why? Because on YouTube, I really like to follow these couples, and I think it's very interesting to hear how they're working with the cultural differences and living abroad, living in another country, and these kind of things. But I think the problem is sometimes that it seems like they like to be very positive and talk all the positive things about intercultural relationships, and of course there are many positive things. I'm not saying this, I'm not trying to be a pessimist, I'm not looking down on anything. I'm just saying that I also feel like we should talk a little bit about the reality of a mixed couple relationship. So yeah, this is what I'm going to do today, because in the end, love doesn't conquer everything. You have to work for it as well. So you work for it in a relationship with a person from your own culture, but when it comes to dating a person from another culture, you have to work even harder. So yes, this is what we're going to talk about today. It's probably gonna be a very long video because I have so many things I wanted to say. So yeah, without further ado, let's get to it. So the first thing I want to talk about is cultural habits. You have to compromise on your own cultural habits, and the other person also have to compromise, and you guys need to find a way, like a middle way in between. And you're probably thinking, cultural habits, what's she talking about? Well, these are just very small things that I realize can become a really big problem in a relationship, a intercultural relationship. So the first one is like when I was dating an Asian guy, it was very important for him that I was wearing slippers inside. I think in many Asian countries they do that, and I'm not used to doing that at home, and I don't really think about it at all actually. But he kept telling me like, put on the slippers, put on slippers. I was like, why is it so important? And he tried not to do it, but it was just very important for him that I wouldn't get cold feet or dirty. And then if I put my feet up in the bed and it was already, if it had been on the floor and it was dirty, and he just didn't like it, he couldn't handle it. So another thing is also one of these very cultural thing. I don't know if it's a cultural thing or if it's just my thing, but here in Denmark, me and my friends as well, we take showers in the mornings. So we go to bed in the evening when we're tired, and then we take a shower in the morning before we go to work. But the guys I've been dating, they always wanted to take showers in the night because they thought it was disgusting that you go to bed dirty. It makes kind of sense, and I tried to compromise and put it into my schedule, but it's really hard when you're used to taking a shower in the morning. I don't know why. It's such a small thing. But as I'm saying, it's like, of course everyone is different, but I'm just saying those were some of the problems here. And I just thought, why is it a problem? But then again, why can I not just change it? Like, I wanted to try to change it. I was wearing slippers as much as I could, but I just keep taking them off. I don't think about it. So compromise on your cultural habits. So when I was talking about cultural habits, well, right? Another very important thing is also the food. What food are you guys going to eat? When I was dating a Chinese guy before, the first time he really liked cooking, so he would be cooking Chinese food but with like a Western style of flavor, because we were in Denmark in the beginning, so he would just pick up Danish groceries and then he would make the food. I thought it was really nice, it was healthy. I don't really like cooking, so I thought that was a perfect match. But the second guy I was with, he was like, he didn't mind going to restaurants all the time. I'm not used to going to restaurants every day to eat. I think it's very stressful. So I wanted to stay at home and cook, but he was like, he didn't know how to cook, and I really didn't know. And he was like, he wanted burgers, but I thought it's really unhealthy. And then he was craving rice and noodles every day, and I was like, I'm totally fine without rice and noodles every day. Like, I eat it in China, but if I don't have to, I won't do it. So yeah, that's another thing. Are you guys going to argue on what to eat every single day the rest of your lives? Well, you should definitely figure that out before you become too comfortable with each other. Another very important thing to consider when you're going into an intercultural relationship is like, where are you going to live, and are you going to live abroad forever? I grew up in a very small town in Denmark, and I didn't travel abroad before I was 20 years old, and right now I'm quite settled with the thought that I'm going to stay abroad for like a very long time. People ask me, are you going to stay in China forever? And I'm like, I don't know. It very much depends on who I meet and what we figure out, but I'm just saying that what if you suddenly one day feel like you just want to go home and your husband's like, no, I don't want to do that, then it's going to be a problem, especially if you're gonna do like a long distance thing with children between like for me, Denmark and China. That would be so problematic, right? So you really have to consider this as well. Also, if I met a Chinese guy and he said, oh, I would love to come to Denmark with you and we could stay there as a family, I would know, because I know a lot of foreigners here, that it's really hard to become a part of Danish culture because you have to speak the language, and not many people learn the language here. It's just it's a difficult language, and we speak English, and Danish people don't seem to be very patient when it comes to learning teach Danish to foreigners. And it's just a very close community, so I feel like if you're American, where like the culture of the population is much more diverse, it would be easier, especially because English is the first language. Whereas for me as a Danish person, it would be really hard to take my boyfriend or husband with me home to Denmark and integrate him here. So that's another thing especially I consider. Another important thing is like the language barriers. So I've seen a lot of videos where the couples talking about the language barriers. Some of them are more lucky because their boyfriends have been abroad for a really long time, so they learned English, they speak perfectly well English. But there are other guys where they just have not. And so for me personally, the first time the guy has stayed in Denmark for a really long time, so he spoke English perfectly, no Danish at all. But the second one, we only dated for like a year in Chinese, and it was definitely hard because sometimes my Chinese is not that good and his English was not great. So it's like you have arguments in a relationship just like normal couples, but you also have these cultural problems, but you also have the language barriers. So if you don't understand what each other is saying, right? Also, I think like humor is a big deal as well. For me, I'm very sarcastic, so when I say something, it can pretty easily be misunderstood and turn into something more ugly than I actually wanted it to be. So that has also become a problem very, very often, just in general with foreign friends, international friends. So again, that could also turn into an ugly thing. Wow, I'm being so negative here. I'm sorry guys, this is just a reality check. I just want you guys to know what you have to consider as well, because obviously it's great to be in an international relationship. I love it. For me personally, I mostly look out for foreign guys. It's like when they say they're Danish, I'm a little bit like so I'm definitely not against it at all. I just want to say that there are some things you have to keep in mind when you do these things. Yeah.